Ladies and gentlemen, we need to talk about the communists, because the communists are retarded. And as a bunch of retarded individuals, they're doing retarded stuff. Now, before we get on to the main news story, can I yet again remind you, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help. And I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. I'm really close to it. Once you get 100,000 subscribers, you get a nice little silver plaque from YouTube. I'd really like one of them. So let's get on to the main news story. So what's actually going on? Now, before we do get on to that, I would like to say to Fixile and Balula, mate, it's time to tell these guys to just do one and get lost. Because the SACP is not doing the ANC any favors. So what's happening? According to the SACP, they are going to contest the 2026 municipal elections. They're going to do this to show the ANC that they are independent of the ANC, even though they're still part of the Tripartite Alliance. And why are they going to do this? Because according to them, the partnership that they had with the DA has basically made the ANC a liberal party. And as a result, they are getting sick and tired of state capture, maladministration, looting, and poor service, which is basically making the ANC and the SACP by extension look bad. And now the ANC is going against the socialist revolution, so they've just got to show the ANC who's boss, and they need to go out there and contest the elections on their own. Now, let's actually go through all of the claims that are being made. First of all, let's actually look at this whole idea that they want to distinguish themselves from the ANC because of maladministration and state capture. And let us go back all the way back in time to the reign of Thabo Mbeki. Now, for those of you who don't recall, Thabo Mbeki was kicked out of office by, are you ready for it? Yeah, the SACP. The SACP supported Jacob Zuma. Let us not forget that Jacob Zuma presided over a large amount of state capture. Now, for those of you who don't really know what that actually was meant to look like, and as we've all heard the chants, what did Zuma do? Actually, what Zuma did is that there were a number of infrastructure maintenance that was meant to occur in the country that wasn't done correctly because they all involved kickbacks of somebody that personally knew Jacob Zuma. Let's actually consider some of those. As an example, Prasa was meant to get some new trains, and the construction of those trains was given abroad, wasn't made local. Why? Because the person who actually had the tender got a kickback. And when the trains were given, they were too wide for the tracks. They couldn't actually be used on the tracks. We all know now, in modern times, the story of Prasa. Next, some dams were meant to be built, and a load of money was put aside for the construction of those dams because South Africa is a water-scarce country, and it shouldn't be a water-scarce country, but we don't have any dams. In typical fashion, yet again, an individual was given the contract, and the dams were never built. So lo and behold, we still got water problems. There was a whole campaign set aside with a load of money to go out and all the existing plumbing and clog the leaks to help with water. Yeah, that was never done. And so forth and so forth. So a lot of the actual infrastructure declines, the maladministration, the looting and the state capture, was as a direct consequence of the SACP. Let us not forget that Blade has been in government since 2000. The guy has literally been there forever. You would be surprised to actually recall that the guy was ever actually a communist. You just assume he's part of the ANC at this point. But at the end of the day, for the SACP to distance itself from all these failed policies is like really delusional. After all, the SACP was then directly responsible for kicking out Jacob Zuma. And let us not forget that at the last elections, they didn't actually want to partner with the MK party because the MK party was made up of loads of state capture type people. But now it would appear that, maybe that might not be the case. Is this the first time the SACP has said they're going to contest elections on their own? And the answer is no. They actually contested an election in 2006 in the Free State. And they did this to basically demonstrate against Ace Magashule's government. And in that specific area, they got 3 seats and ultimately was made mayor. And all the things that they were moaning about that apparently Ace wasn't doing, they didn't do either. So nothing improved in that area at all. So they got power and did nothing with it. This is typical. Now, for those of you who don't know, Anthea Jeffries of the Daily Friend, the IOR, actually wrote an article yesterday around whether or not the GNU is being used to foster the NDR, the socialist revolution, and how this was basically just a strategy of the ANC to continue advancing the socialist agenda. I actually got to review that entire article and say to myself, how factual is it? Because I'm not actually sure that's what the ANC is doing. You see, the problem is that for the longest time, the ANC has collapsed the country. And many people could look at that and say it was by design, it was to cause there to be some form of unrest, and that unrest ultimately would lead to a socialist revolution. Yeah, I can see the logic, but I don't actually think that's what happened. I actually just think that these people just didn't think further than what they could loot and what they could chow. And as a result, many years later, this is where we are. Because to a large degree, this is what democracy promotes. It promotes forms of populism. And so that's exactly what the SAP is actually attempting to do. It's trying to attempt a form of populism, where it basically says, nothing to do with me, I wasn't Jacob Zuma. These guys have been in power for how long? They've literally had a seat in government since Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela gave the very first individual a seat at government. And ever since then, the SACP has actually formed part of the government's cabinet, despite never actually being on the ballot box. So to get a huge benefit of being a political party that no one voted for, they get a free pass to power, even though they're actually not campaigning or spending their own cash to actually get the votes in the first place. They've had a very nice parasitical relationship from the ANC, but now because the ANC, in order to protect its president, in order to protect its policies and its future, it's partnered with the DA as part of this GNU. Apparently now the SACP can't criticize it enough, as if they never had a hand in anything that the ANC has done before. So now, according to the SACP, they need to show the ANC exactly who they are. So they're going to contest the election. But they're not leaving the alliance, they say. Now, for those of you who don't actually know what that means, what that basically means, and Solly actually clarified this himself, it means that it's basically what they call the dual membership. If you join the SACP, you automatically become like a member of the ANC and so forth. So it works both ways. You end up joining the ANC, you get the SACP free, if you think of it like that. And it was always that the two sides would basically share the membership. Now, this is in contrast to COSATU, who can't do that because technically they are a trade union and they have to be governed underneath the laws of trade unions. So what the SACP is saying is that they want to retain the benefit, the dual membership of the SACP and the ANC, that, look, you buy one, get one free, but they actually don't want to be part of the ANC. In fact, they actually want to directly campaign against the ANC, because obviously they say that being in partnership now with the ANC is no longer good for business, but they want the benefits of it. Yeah, that's what Jacob Zuma wanted to do. He wanted to have the MK party and then still be a member of the ANC, and he was going to campaign against the ANC and criticize it while still retaining his membership and founding a new political party. And we all saw how well that turned out for Jacob Zuma. And I see no reason why the SACP shouldn't get the exact same treatment. According to the ANC's own internal logic, if the SACP are competing or campaigning against it, that dissolves the alliance. Can't have it both ways. If you're directly against the ANC's interests, then surely that breaks the alliance. Not according to Solly, because he obviously wants his cake and to eat it. He thinks that this is the best way he's going to get it. If you really wanted to leave your boyfriend, you didn't think he was a nice guy, but you started seeing somebody on the side just in case it didn't work out, but you don't want your boyfriend to know. And even when he does find out, you don't really want him to know how serious it is because you're still testing the waters with your new boyfriend. I think everybody would say that's not a good relationship. You need to cut that. And that's exactly the situation that the ANC now finds itself in. Now, interestingly, I must actually look at the entire thing and just say that, in my opinion, the SACP is being dishonest. They're blaming the ANC for every failure that the ANC's had, as if they were never part of government. They've been in part of government for a long time. In fact, if you watch our channel and you're even remotely politically astute, you know that the majority of the really rubbishy laws on our books actually were the brainchilds of SACP members. So they're directly responsible for a lot of the problems that the country's seen. So to say that now all of a sudden it's actually the ANC's fault, we're innocent, guy, yeah, that kind of doesn't wash. You're not innocent. In fact, the era where South Africa saw the most growth was actually during Thabo Mbeki's reign, and the SACP were directly responsible for ending that reign and installing Jacob Zuma. It's funny how this works, right? Now, for those of you who aren't aware, the SACP did actually say prior to the elections that they were considering going alone even then. And part of the reason that they were going to do this is they thought COSATU would actually join them, prop them up, and it would be basically a dual party, the COSATU and the SACP without the ANC. And it seems like these guys have been planning this break from the ANC for some time. Now, that didn't actually happen. It didn't go ahead. Because of that, they were just like, oh, okay, we'll stay as part of the ANC. And again, if you knew your boyfriend was planning to leave you for another girl, and he was trying to make plans with her, but then those plans fell through, and then he came back to you and wanted to kiss and cuddle and make up, would you be happy with that? And the answer would probably be no. He was planning a future without you. He should just leave now. Anything other than it's just toxic. It's not a good relationship. And that's the exact situation, again, the ANC finds itself in. So what does this all actually mean? It means that the actual Tripartite Alliance is just beyond the sell-by date. This isn't working anymore. The ANC needs to, unfortunately for them, they need to cut the alliance apart. They need to tell the SACP, right, you've made it very clear. You've told us that we're rubbish, that we're the corrupt ones. You've defamed the political party. You said you're going to directly compete against us. This is no longer in our best interests. We are now political opponents. We're not political allies. And that's the only way this really can go forward. And my message to Fixile and Balula is, Fixile, grow some balls, bud. Tell these guys to do one. You don't need them. But that's just my view. You can let me know what you think in the comment section below. As per usual, I do read all your comments, even if I don't comment to them. Still, hook me up in the comment section, and until tomorrow, bye.